Hi, this is Miss Litton, and this is a lovely rainy Friday morning in Oak Park, California with my wonderful Period 1 class. Say hi. Hi. There's some excellent eye makeup going on today. Okay, so Chapter 31 is Animal Organization and Homeostasis. You have some highly suggested reading and thinking I know that you will take care of. The bulk of this chapter, let's review one thing with me. It goes atom, then what? Atoms, molecules. Do it together. Atoms, molecules, organelles, cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, organisms, population, community, ecosystem, biosphere. So atoms and molecules and organelles and cells, we've hit that really hard, right? You should feel comfortable with all the organelles, DNA replication, when good DNA goes bad, control of DNA, photosynthesis, cellular respiration, yes? The cell membrane. So cells build tissues, and this chapter is primarily just about animal organization and the tissues. That's what it focuses on. There's 4 different tissues, and I have them listed here for you in your notes. You can see epithelial tissue, connective tissue, nervous tissue, muscular tissue. So you can see all of those are in there. You do not have to memorize all of the tissues. However, some things that are introduced in these tissues really help you later with the systems. So I've included all the notes in there as reference for you. When we go into some of these systems, it might be a good idea for you to review this, because we will build upon some of it. The next part in the chapter 31 goes on to organs and how organs work together in organ systems. They talk about body cavities. They give an example of skin, your integumentary system, and functions of the skin is a focus. And then at the very end of this chapter, 31.4, it's really what we need to know out of this chapter, and that's homeostasis. So I'm going to hit a few things on it just to get you comfortable with it, but we'll move pretty quickly through it. Okay? So on your tissues, here are your 4 types of tissues. When you look at this, epithelial tissue, what comes to mind right away? Epithelial. Epidermis. So what other things come to mind? Skin, right? So epithelial tissues are all about covering and lining. And in your skin, when you get hot, what do you have to cool yourself? Sweat. And so you're using what?
Water.
Okay, coming out of? Which are part of? Glands, okay? So, that was really hard. So, you, guys, glands are often talked about in this portion of it. There are 2 kinds of glands. There's exocrine glands and endocrine glands. Endo, what do you think of when you hear this? Inside, yeah. So endocrine gland is a type of gland that secretes into your bloodstream. Like your pituitary gland is an endocrine gland. Your thyroid gland is an endocrine gland. Exocrine glands, they secrete into ducts or tubes. For instance, your salivary glands in your mouth, that's an exocrine gland because it's secreting saliva, which contains salivary amylase and moistens your food, begins the digestion of carbohydrates. That's all happening in your antimicrobial. That's in an exocrine gland. It's going in a duct, D-U-C-T, not quack, okay, but duct. Your liver makes bile, and it secretes it into the bile duct, which is going to eventually get into the top of your small intestines. So that's a duct. That's an exocrine gland. Endocrine glands go right into your bloodstream. Now, one of our mandatory units we need to know is the endocrine system. So that's where that's going to come from. Okay, and you have that associated with your epithelial tissue. Okay, what's another tissue on there that's easy to recognize?
Muscle tissue.
Muscle tissue. And there's 3 categories of muscular tissue. If you skim forward kind of in the notes, and then I'll help fill in whatever ones that need to be filled in. But there are 3 types of muscular tissue. Can you think what those 3 might be? Smooth. Where do you find smooth muscle? Yep, arteries. All your organs and glands have smooth muscle in them. Can you think of another type of muscle? What?
Rough.
Rough muscle. Striated or skeletal muscle. Where do you think you find that?
Skeleton.
On your skeleton. I can tell by the drawing, or that's a photograph, that that is skeletal muscle because of the striations, the patterns that I can see in there. See how it looks stripy? Okay. And then you have one more muscle. Cardiac. Okay. So you have cardiac muscle, you have smooth muscle, and you have skeletal muscle. So those 3 types of muscles. Okay. Then what's another tissue up there you recognize? Nervous tissue. So nervous tissue, this is one of our mandated systems, is understanding. Muscular is not. Okay. Nervous tissue, they have a special cell and they're built out of neurons, and then there are support cells, and we'll be studying all about that in our nervous system, you know, through 2 chapters. Okay. Then connective tissue, that's kind of a catch-all, you know, connective throughout your body. But one thing connective tissue all has in common is it is cells separated by a matrix. All connective tissue have cells separated by a matrix. That matrix may be hard, like bone. Bone cells are osteocytes, and they're sitting in little lacuna matata, little divots in your bone cells, and then there's putting salts that are hardening around it. But connective tissue could also be fluid. Like what? What's a fluid connective tissue? Blood. Okay, that was chapter 32. That's a type of connective tissue. Cells separated by a matrix. When blood, it has its formed elements, and then the rest of blood, the liquid part of it. What do you call the liquid part of blood? Plasma. And what is plasma? Is mostly what? Water. Mostly water. And then there are some other things dissolved in. We'll talk about that. Okay? So connective tissue could be adipose or fat tissue. It's kind of a catch-all. So these 4 tissues are going to build all of our what? What do tissues build? Organs. And then those organs will work together to build organ systems, and those organ systems will work together to build a organism. So these tissues have to function well to help you maintain what? Homeostasis in each of your organs. Okay, so this first, I'm just kind of, you know, epithelial covers, lines. You can have different things in it. You can have little cilia, little hairs to move things along or to protect you, like in your trachea. You know, you'll constantly, your little cilia are beating unless you smoke a cigarette. The moment you start smoking a cigarette, your little cilia along your trachea, they are paralyzed for 20 minutes after you stop exposing yourself to cigarette smoke. So what are those things doing normally? Bringing up all that crap, right? And now if you're smoking, bonus crap, right? And then regular crap, okay? I'm so glad we're recording this. And then all of that's going to go where? Lungs. What type of cancer is associated with smoking? That is so weird, okay? So that, you know, those kind of things, those are protective responses that we have on our linings. You have microvilli in the linings of your small intestines, and these are folds on folds on folds, okay? What is that going to do? Surface area. What is surface area going to do in your digestive system? Increase what? Absorption. Yeah, most digestion in your digestive system occurs not in your stomach, but in your small intestines. Most digestion and absorption, definitely absorption, in your small intestines. And so what you want to think about as we move into systems is how the structure meets the function. Those are the patterns you want to consistently avoid. How does this structure help with this function? If it's flat and thin type of a cell, then that's going to be really good for easy diffusion. Right? It's got a bunch of folds on it, surface area, it's good for absorption. Okay, so you're trying to maximize your function. So that's kind of the things that you want to look for, those patterns. We've already done cell-to-cell junctions, right? Yeah, so you remember tight junctions, like proteins stitched together. That's a terrible picture representing that. Okay, and then this is an adhesion junction where part of the cytoskeleton is reaching through, holding the cells together, another terrible picture. And then these are gap junctions where you're sharing a protein channel. And that makes sense. It's an okay picture showing plasmodesmata, actually plant cell. Because think about it, you can just rip, right? You could just pull your skin apart, but yet you actually could. But We don't, because of all those cell connections. We don't have something that plants have. What do plants have that help them stay together? Cell walls. Yeah, we don't have that. All right, and then here's just kind of showing the layers of skin, and then here you can see this basement membrane. And do you remember when we talked about when your cell cycle is out of control in cancer? We talked about that, and the different like melanomas. And the issue is this basement membrane right here serves as a barrier. So if you've got an out of control mole going on, as long as it's above that basement membrane, you could go in and get it removed, right? But once it crosses this basement membrane, it can have access to different systems in your body, and then it can spread. And what do we call that when it spreads? Metastasize. Good. All right. These are just different flat, thin cells, simple squamous, good for diffusion, cuboidal, columnar, stratified. They're pseudostratified. Here's some just other epithelial, the ones you might see in your lungs, kidneys, mouth. Okay, this is showing you exocrine and endocrine gland. Could I quickly have Blue differentiate between the two? Go ahead, Blue. Okay, and then on your notes on epithelial, I just wanted you to know that that was the name of a tissue. Remember, anything that's micro-mini, I'm never going to test you on. But B, I want you to know that epithelial tissue covers body surfaces and lines body cavities. Covers body surfaces and lines body cavities. It is usually protective, usually has a protective function, but can also be modified for secretion and absorption and excretion and filtration. Okay, and then if you go down to glandular, it secretes a product. It can be a single cell or many cells. Exocrine secretes into ducts or tubes, and endocrine secretes into the bloodstream. Secretes into the bloodstream. And then I think these questions are too. Oh, yeah, you can answer this. Oh my gosh, I'm not wearing heels. Oh, okay, it started. You guys, as we work through this, there might be some questions I won't ask you because I'm not holding you accountable for certain things anymore, so I might skip over some. More than 24 of you, aren't there? Two more of you. There's 26 of us, so a couple of you haven't logged in yet. Hurry up. Let's go. Unlog inners. One more needs to log in. There's 26 of us. Yay! Good job, California Thrasher. Oh, you guys, you're not the leader anymore. You will get it back? Okay, here's your one already. Period 0 overtook you by 1. Yeah, where are the donuts? Does anybody want to come over on Saturday and grade your exams for me? I'll make cookies and you can just like spread them out, and then I'll just cook. I would rather just cook. I can make some really homemade bread, maybe some stew. I would like to make some Rice Krispie treats that are multicolored, maybe pink for Valentine's. I don't know. You could just get it all done. And your labs too. Don't I have a lab to grade for you? I have a lab in every class to grade. And your test. Yay. What? Oh, you don't need to know. All right. Now, The next section, these are cells separated by a matrix, elastin and collagen. This is reticular connective tissue. This would be part of like a lymph node. Here is loose fibrous connective tissue, not to gross you out, but you know, like if you just like cut your hand kind of deep and you're like, there's stuff in there, that would be like loose fibrous connective tissue. You know, there's stuff in there. It's just like a bunch of stuff. If you look in this, you might be able to recognize some things. Find something. It's like a little, you know, like where's Waldo? Find something you know in the loose connective tissue.
That's a white cell.
Do you know what these do? They eat things. Exactly. They eat things. Do you know what mast cells do? Anybody have allergies? Mast cells secrete histamine, which dilates your blood vessels to make it easier for your immune system cells to get to that target area. When they dilate all of them, and that's what makes you leaky and sneezy. That's why, because they're secreting histamine, what could you take? Antihistamine to combat your leaky blood vessels. All right, do you know what this is?
Yes.
Capillary. Of all the blood vessels, which ones are the tiniest? Capillaries. What happens at every capillary? Exchange. Good. Fat cell. What's beneficial about fat? A little something for the way home. No. What does it do? Keeps you warm. Yeah, it stores energy. Here's another macrophage. A white blood cell fights infection. And then melanocytes. What do you hear in melanocytes? Melanin, color, good. Okay. This is dense. You see dense connective tissue, tendons, and ligaments. Okay, ligaments and tendons. Do you know what they do? What do tendons do?
Connect muscles.
Muscles to bones. You know how I remember that? Tense tendons. Because they've got muscles associated with them. Tendons. What do ligaments do? Bone to bone. Bone to bone. Good. Here you can see a tendon, okay, muscle to bone, and then ligament, bone to bone. What's that? It's a booty. Here are some fat cells. Look at the booty. Here are some other fat cells, but I like this picture better. They just look like bulbous. Okay. Yeah. Here's some cartilage, another connective tissue. Yeah. Here's some bone. These are called osteons. This is a virgin canal in the center. Because if you think about a bone cell, yes.
I was gonna ask, which type of muscle tissue is the one that's like when you work out, like
skeletal? Because it's on your skeleton. Yeah. Okay. This is called an osteon, and your bone cells are alive, yet they're surrounded by all of these hard salts. So it's like being in a tower that's completely closed off. What do those bone cells need?
Food, water.
Yes. Oxygen, perhaps, for cellular respiration. Because who does cellular respiration? Also. Okay. Oxygen, right? Maybe some nutrients of some sort. They might need to get rid of carbon dioxide and waste. Right? Are bone cells doing photosynthesis? No. Okay. But they need oxygen and they need to get rid of CO2. So what happens is these bone cells that look like little smished ants all around here. Okay? This right here, the virgin canal, contains blood vessels and nerves, and there are tiny little canals called caniculi that go out and feed the bone cells. And as we age, those caniculi, those little tiny canals, can kind of close off, get filled up, kind of like heartwood and sapwood in a plant, you know, right? And so then you can't keep those cells alive anymore. So that's when you've fallen and I can't get up, right? You know, and you break a hip, you know, it's the beginning of the end. It's true. Because you just don't heal as well. Okay, you just don't heal as well. Sorry, I didn't mean to be like this. Okay? All right. Fluids, fluid matrix. You're looking at a white blood cell, some red blood cells. about 250 million molecules of hemoglobin in those red blood cells, and their job is to transport what? Oxygen. Okay. We're going to talk more about that today. You already know about this because you did your ed puzzle, hopefully. We'll talk about this in just a moment. We'll talk about blood flow. This is Lymph Girl. And you learned a little bit about the lymphatic system and how it is associated with your cardiovascular system. And Slate wants to tell you a little bit about that. Slate, tell them what they want. Trifecta here. Oh, wait, let me move. I'm taking you. You're my mobile boy. You know what? You're not odd. Just really nice the way you're not odd. All right. Now, so at your capillaries, you've got two pressures that are in opposition to each other. Do you remember the names of those two pressures? Hydrostatic, due to the force on the blood due to the heart. And then what's the other one? So smart. So you know that already. Osmotic, and what is osmotic saying? Come in. So at the arterial end of the capillary, who wins? Hydrostatic. So fluids go out of your capillaries. And at the venial end, who wins? Osmotic. So fluids come in. Do we always recapture everything? No. So who picks it up? Yeah. It becomes lymph once that fluid gets into your lymphatic system. And you won't return it until it's passed through a lymph node. You have lymph nodes in your groin area right here. You've got them in your armpits. You've been to the doctor and they go right here. You have lymph nodes. And before that lymph, which was fluid that was in your cardiovascular system, which moved out into your tissues and then is recovered from your tissues, instead of having to monitor your entire body, you can have your soldiers hang out in your lymph nodes, because all the lymph will have to pass through that. And so they can be like, yeah, you can go ahead. It's like a border crossing, okay? And you can go ahead, you can go ahead, you can go ahead. And then if not, then you go after that particular organism at that point. Sometimes our lymph vessels can get blocked, maybe like by worms or something like that, okay? Or something else. And so then this is a problem. Okay, and so what's happening is, obviously she has it on this side, not on that side, but maybe a little bit. This would be called edema, okay, where you have a slight swelling due to the excess fluid. Yes? Wait, say that part again? Yeah, they're all interconnected, so yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we'll play high card. Best out of 3. These don't count. I gotta hit them. Okay, Slate, here's your card. Blue. Oh. Blue, we're doing best out of 3. Slate, here's your card. Oh, that doesn't look good. Oh. Here we go. Here's the tie. 7. All right, Blue, pass or play? Tell them 3 things you've learned. Go ahead. What? I still hear you.
There's a plan for 3 different products, and it can be a single cell or many cells.
All right, moving on. Go into the connective tissue. Number 5, fluid. Under blood, matrix of fluid is plasma. Functions, transports nutrients and oxygen to cell, removes CO2 and waste, has a major homeostasis role. It has a role in homeostasis. Major player. Okay, lymph. We're going to have a whole chapter about our lymphatic system. That's a focus. So it's found in lymph vessels. It absorbs excess tissue fluid and returns it to the circulatory system. It absorbs fat from the intestines and houses white blood cells in lymph nodes. And houses white blood cells in lymph nodes. I think these are going to be too Oh no, we can answer this. Does anybody know where Katie is today? Have you texted, talked?
I can text her right now.
Yes, text her. Say she's missed. I hope she's not sick. Let's go, yellow rump. Okay. What is that? Woodpecker. Oh, you know what? Woodpecker probably went to the bathroom. Oh, sadness.
I got it right.
What is, oh, wren-tit and hooded oriole. You know who you are. Shame. 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 Okay? Check your bio buddies clicker, chastisement, praisement. What? Does blood have a gap junction? Do you have one blood cell connected to another blood cell like this? No, that's what's called a clot and soon to happen death if that happened in your blood vessel, okay? So no, they don't have that. That is not a gap junction. Pull your head out of your gap junction. You could do this one. It's not too hard. Guys, Monday is a dress-up day, yes? Yeah. And this, like, not make an effort on Monday day?
Yeah.
Just dress down? Yay! We could have been at 4 right now. Yes.
So, like this question, like,
I can't hear. Shh.
even though this question is in like small text in ours, should we still like know it, or just because it's in small text, it's just like, well, this question's only like to make sure we're paying attention?
Probably both. I mean, I won't hold you. I look back through and look at small text. If it's something though that I've said repetitively, you know, like I've already brought it up, I kind of start to expect you to know it. You should know the difference between a tendon and a ligament, just because you're in biology. You know, whether they're asking you that on an AP exam, you should just know that because you've been in biology. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Do you know who that is? He plays soccer.
Yes, it would be.
Yes.
Is it really?
Yeah, David Beckham. He was at our class, and we were studying muscles, and so I took that picture when he was here. Really? Okay. Okay. So there are 3 types of tissue. Okay. So I could tell that picture we saw earlier was skeletal muscle because of these stripes that you can see. Smooth muscle has these tapered ends. Cardiac muscles, you can't see it in this picture per se, but it is this structure. And there are things called intercalated discs that you can see that helps all the cardiac muscle to beat at the same time. Here's some other pictures. You do not have to know this for the AP exam. It would only be used as support. I personally want you to know the minimum of that there are 3 different types of muscles and where you would find them. I want you to know at least that much. Okay? 3 different types of muscles and where you would find them. Okay? This is in the wrong place, but this is in neuron, but I don't know why it's in the middle of these muscles. But muscles are innervated by nerves, so we could make that connection. This is skeletal muscle. I can tell by the striping that you see here. This is smooth muscle. Oh, here, this would be cardiac muscle. These are those intercalated discs that help it kind of contract all at the same time. Both skeletal and smooth have these stripies in them. I'm sorry, skeletal and cardiac have the striping in it. Smooth does not. And there are plenty of pictures, you know, to look at if you wanted to reference that. Okay, moving on. Nervous system. This we will have a big, you know, we'll spend a lot of time here, so I'm not going to teach it all to you now. For nervous, the function you need to know is sensory input, integration, and motor output. So input, integration, and output. Okay, there you can see a neuron, and then there are support cells around it. You could have 50 support cells for every one neuron. Your brain is more support cells than it actually is neurons. This is just one type of neuron. The structure of it, though, this one has the nucleus, the cell body. These are dendrites. The dendrites receive information, and then the axon away takes information away. Your cell body here has the nucleus. This is another neuron synapsing in. Here is a synapse. Right here is where two neurons meet. And like I said, we're going to spend a lot of time discussing this in the future. And now, let's see. This is just showing you that some of the support cells. So the neurons are here. You have ones that are like, basically you have every neuron, a lot of neurons, not every neuron, but like in the brain, etc. You have cells that are cooks for them, cells that are housekeepers for them and run errands, you know, and repair. That's the kind of support a neuron has. And again, we'll talk about that later. I don't think, let's see. That's okay, we're gonna skip that. Okay, so once we have our tissues, now we're gonna, from our tissues, we can build organs, and then organs build systems. So here are some of the systems here. I don't know why she's looking down.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So she's like, hi. So there are really good summary tables that you have. I gave you one here, but on your introduction, an organ is composed of two or more types of tissues working together to perform a particular function. And I said structure fits function up there at the top. Okay, these tell you the different life processes and what systems are the ones that primarily contribute to them. If you go down to organ systems number 4, coordinate body activities. That's your nervous and your endocrine. Notice I put them bold because those are your two of your 3 mandated ones. Coordinate body activities, nervous and endocrine, and then protect body from disease is what system? Immune. And I kind of gave you an overview of the other ones. Yes. All right, so here are the different systems. Sometimes they have one person showing it, and sometimes they have 2. Why is that?
To show the differences.
Why 2 instead of 1? Differences between what? Male and female. Okay, there's differences. All right, let's name that system. Ready? What one's this one? Digestive. Good job. Specialist. Labeled. Here's some more on that. Look at that. That's a capillary. We got some exchange going on. What do you think this one is? I drew a swimsuit on her.
No, it's okay.
Well, there's, you know, I'm like, why do you need to draw that? Okay. What system is that, do you think? Lymphatic. Can you see? Those are all lymph vessels all through her body right there. And then the organs associated with it. Okay, what about this one? Respiratory. Good. What about this one? Not digestive. Excretory. Good. What about this one? Nervous. What about this one? Musculoskeletal. What about this? Another swimsuit. he's a diver. Okay. Anyway, what system is this? Look, she's looking at him again. I don't know what's up. Not reproductive. What's the hormone one called? Endocrine. There we go. There you go. What one's that one? Reproductive. Good. Okay. So, see, tell me which system maintains body shape? Only skeletal? Muscular. Okay. All right. Which one excretes waste? Excretory. Or urinary. That's good. And then produce offspring? That was tricky. Coordinates body activities? And endocrine. Okay? And endocrine. Which one's faster? Yeah, nervous is quick, immediate responses, usually short-lived, unless you jumped off a building or something. Endocrine is long-term, but it can act quickly as well. You have your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, the association with your hormones, fight or flight, all related to that. Okay, protect body from disease. Tell me that one. Immune. Exchange of gases. Respiratory, acquire materials and energy, digestive, and you have to pick something up, so you might need your musculoskeletal. Okay, transports materials? Circulatory, anything else? No. All right, so that's just an overview of the different systems. Sounds like you have those down pretty good. They do a whole kind of emphasis on skin. I thought you might want to see skin close-ups. Skin danger. Do you have a highly suggested reading and thinking on that one? I think you do. And more skin, in case you're wondering, and still more skin. And skin and a gland, and skin. And skin. Okay. Now, homeostasis. All right. I think I need one more thing here on you. Regulates body temperature underneath functions of skin. It's the fastest chapter we've ever done. All right. So have we already discussed homeostasis before? Okay, now don't look at your notes. You're going to be like, oh, I'm going to look. See if you can figure out by my emoji definition what the definition is of homeostasis. Don't look at your notes. It's a cheat.
Self-regulated organism. Mechanical mechanisms self-regulating
Got it? Okay. So I think on your basics, dynamic equilibrium of internal environment, normal functioning. So things are going to fluctuate all the time. Outside, it's cold. What are you going to do to adapt to that? Shiver. If it's hot, what are you going to do? Sweat. So you have external fluctuations that you will adapt to in order to maintain homeostasis. But if you eat something that's high in sugar, then in order to maintain homeostasis, you're going to want to store some of that sugar. First, do you know where you'll store it first if you don't need it? Your liver. Yeah. You can store about a 3 to 4 hour supply of sugar in your liver. This is why we eat every 3 to 4 hours. Okay? Now, if our liver is all full, and you know, like say you had pancakes with syrup and orange juice and a donut, okay? So your liver is completely full. What will it do with those extra ones? Store them as fat. Store them as fat. Yeah. Did I tell you about the study I just read in Scientific American? I want you to read. So interesting. Game changer. Okay? When you exercise, some people exercise in order to eat more. Okay? It was a very interesting, they followed these from, where were they, Zimbabwe, or they were a hunter-gatherer tribe, and they were wondering, they wanted to make a point about the differences between are lazy, you know, North American or European people versus these hunter-gatherers who like hunt down literally a giraffe, okay, and they use that giraffe for a month. They eat that, and then the women are like digging tubers out of the ground with babies on their back, and looking to see at their caloric expenditure through the day. And they do, the best way to study that, I guess currently is, I think it's called a double ion study. And you drink a fluid and they collect all your pee, and then they measure the amount of that ion found, and they know your caloric burn. And part of the article said, lies my Fitbit told me. Because if you've ever been to a gym or you've worn any of the exercise bands, which I have, I've killed 4 of them due to water, killed 4. Finally, I'm like, I can't have any more. It'll tell me, oh, you've just burned 500 calories. And I'm like, oh, good, you know, I can eat this, you know, or whatever it is. They found out, they were freaking out, they redid the studies, and I'll bring the article in, so you know, I'm just not pulling this out of somewhere. What they found out is they couldn't believe it. Between somebody in, you know, here in the United States versus them, they're literally running to hunt down a giraffe. A difference, 200 calories. Okay, and what they found out is couch potato doesn't do anything versus moderately, does moderate exercise, like you'll park a little bit away from the door and take the stairs. Maybe you'll exercise 2 times a week. Heavy exerciser, only real difference was between the couch potato and the moderate exerciser of 200 calories. 200 calories. And the reason is, metabolically, we conserve. We've adapted to conserve. So women will burn about 1,900 calories a day. So it doesn't matter if I go on a 6-mile run and I'm sweating my ass off trying to run up a hill, and then I go home and vacuum, somebody else who never exercises and gets off her couch and vacuums, she will spend more calories vacuuming than I will, because I have already spent my allotment for the day. And metabolically, our bodies conserve that. And it was mind-blowing to the people. Mind-blowing. Now, is there no point to exercise? Yes. Exercising, your overall wellness, health, immune system, cardiovascular, that has payoff. But you need to separate that from body size. Like your body size and how much fat we carry, 90-95% dependent on what we eat. Because I can remember I would be, and this would be my own issue. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I didn't run today. I'm gonna be huge, you know. And I that's my own problem, my own mindset. That's my own demon that I have to battle. But all of a sudden, I'm like, it doesn't matter if I run or not. It just depends on what I eat today. But whether you run or not, or you exercise, you go to the gym, that's going to affect your overall health and wellness, right? So this will be a big thing. I promise you this will be a big thing. You heard it here first, okay? So they have to separate those two things out. You have to separate diet from exercise, and don't think, have you ever seen, because I've seen people who like, I never run in races at all, and I'm really glad those of you that do, but I don't. And I have seen people who are regular triathletes, and they're larger. And that's because what do? They eat a lot. I mean, I've seen a triathlete, she just sat down, larger girl, she just ate the whole pizza. Like, ate the whole pizza. Not like, hey, let's share, I'll have a piece. No, I can eat the whole thing. Okay, you know, the whole pizza, you know? And so that will be interesting, because that, evolutionarily speaking, it makes sense to me. We only can spend so many calories, so our body doesn't do other metabolic functions in order to, you know, we won't do something else like have, what do I want to say? An inflammatory response. We won't do that in order to conserve our calories. I'll bring you the article, or I'll post it, or I'll scan it, or something so you can read it. It's very interesting. Okay, all about maintaining homeostasis. All right, now, on your notes, okay, on contributing organs, could Blue tell Slate all the different contributing organs? These are out of order.
Or no?
Okay? So, all of these different organs contribute to it in some way to maintain homeostasis, but the ultimate control is the nervous system that controls the endocrine system. Ultimate control is the nervous system that controls the endocrine system. Slate, riddle me this. Bobcat is in yellow, snake line is in red. Talk about it. Okay, so which one are we? We're a endotherm, right? So we maintain our body temperature. How do we do that? Fat. Yeah. Yeah. Fire. Fat, hair. We don't want, if we generate heat, we don't want to lose it. So we insulate it, okay? They'll just be like, oh, I'm not warm enough, I'm just not moving, okay? But we don't work that way. We have really high metabolic needs. We have to be the right temperature in order to function. So there's just two different strategies. I would like Slate to take the homeotherm, and I'd like Blue to take the poikilotherm.
So the poikilotherm is cold-blooded on birds, fish, and reptiles. Body temperature fluctuates in I don't know what the word is, but sorry. Animals maintain certain temperature within limits.
How could a poikilotherm, what kind of behaviors could it do if you're a lizard to help?
Sleep on a rock.
You could sleep on a sunny rock. You could face towards the rock. Okay, so they'll do all different strategies in order to get that energy, okay, in order to do that. So thermoregulation, I would like, do the opposite. Do whatever one you didn't do last time. You explain this one.
So homeotherms are animals that can relative body temperature, which are something signs of birds.
All right, so on your notes, poikilothermic, cold-blooded, you are ectotherms. And I gave you invertebrates, fish, amphibians, reptiles. B, body temperature fluctuates depending on the environmental temperature. Cost-benefit analysis, it saves energy. You're not investing anything in fat or hair. It saves energy, but it restricts organisms from living in extreme environments. Homeothermic, warm-blooded endotherms. These are birds and, what are we? Mammals. Birds and mammals. We regulate our body temperature to optimum. Cost-benefit, energetically expensive, but advantageous that they can adapt to various environments. Oldest bio buddy, talk about this and metabolic rates. I talked about metabolic rates with you already today, but go ahead, talk about this.
Inverse relationship between body mass and metabolic rate. So inverse relationship between body mass
Yeah, go. Okay, so typically there is an inverse relationship between body mass and metabolic rate. The larger the animal, the slower the metabolism. The larger the animal, the slower the metabolism. Do you remember when we talked about cells and why cells are small? What is it? Surface area to volume. So it's going to be relative to that, surface area to volume, and how hard you have to work in order to maintain that temperature that you have. because they would have a large surface area per volume, where the elephant would have a what? Smaller surface area to volume. Not it. I really don't care who won this. Whoever last time told 3 things that they learned, the other bio buddy needs to tell this one.
I didn't know it was that was cool. And I know that systems, that was pretty I didn't know the exact name was really. Oh, it's an actual word. Yeah. I didn't know.
All right. So now let's talk about, there's going to be, if you look at the next part, there's negative feedback and positive feedback. Okay, before I even talk to you, what would you envision positive feedback to be? Nice, okay? So, yeah, if somebody's giving you a positive feedback, are you going to continue to do what you're doing?
Yes.
Yes, it's like, good job. They tell you when you read parenting books that you should say 10 positive things to your child for every 1 negative thing you say to your child. Is that what But false positives can degrade the trustworthiness of the person giving it. Like if you really did crappy on a test, okay, and I said, but you did a good job, you really tried hard, you're going to be like, Lytton, you sucked at that, okay? So it has to be, okay, so anyway, that's off the point. Positive feedback is always going to amplify everything up. More. For instance, when a woman is giving birth, okay, when her uterus contracts, it pushes the baby's head, if he's going the right way, against her cervix. That pressure on her cervix gives feedback to the hypothalamus, pituitary gland, which then says, oh, we need more oxytocin, which makes your uterus contract even more, which then pushes the baby on your cervix more, which gives feedback out, okay? So it amps it up. Whereas negative feedback, it's always in a self-corrective, mode. For instance, most people's body temperature is somewhere around what? 98.6. Yeah, and everybody's a little bit different. So if your temperature's a little high, you'll correct back down. A little low, you'll correct back up. It's kind of putting your car on, what would that be? No, not neutral. What do I want? Cruise control. Do you even know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like setting it. Like, I'm going to go 65. I'm going to go 65. So you set it at that. And you could go down a hill, and all of a sudden your tires move faster, and it'll apply the brakes. You could be going up a hill. It'll accelerate. Okay? That's negative feedback. Always around some set point. Okay? Slate, you explain that using this analogy.
Maintaining our if it causes me 65 miles an hour, it's gonna like realize what we're doing, like stop, slow down, or like go faster.
Okay? And so take a look at this. Now we're going to go up from a cartoon. Blue, this is you. Go ahead, Blue. Pay attention to the colored box, all the boxes, these things. So this would be usually what's our control center, do you think? Brain, yeah. Not only your brain, but your brain stem that's below it, like your pons has a point of that. Your cerebellum will have effects in that area. So it's your central nervous system. Now, negative feedback, it says more gets you what? Less. Okay. So it involves a response in which a variable is kept close to a particular set point. Components, you have a sensor which detects change in the internal environment. Control center initiates an action to bring conditions back to normal again. Initiates an action to bring conditions back to normal. Again, when normal conditions are reached, the sensor is no longer activated. Thermostat at your house, right? Air conditioning, heating, if it's all in one. So if it's getting too hot, it turns on the air conditioner. If it's getting too cold, it turns on the heater, keeping it just right. Okay? Blood glucose levels. Blue, you just went, right? I think I'm going to give you calcium levels actually right now. Slate, your turn. Go ahead.
Where do I start?
Start right here. Start right here. Stimulus. Falling blood calcium levels. Start right there. PTH stands for parathyroid hormone. Small, 4 little small glands sit on your thyroid gland in your neck. So let's take a look at this. Your blood calcium levels are too low. Okay, so we've got our circulatory system involved, right? So we've got our circulatory system. Now we have a parathyroid gland. What system is that? Endocrine. Okay, this is going to affect, we store calcium in our bones. So now we're working on what? Musculoskeletal system. And it's stimulating calcium uptake by the kidneys. Now what system are we in? Excretory. And look, we're getting calcium uptake in our intestines. What is that? Digestive. Okay? Look at all these different systems that are involved in order to maintain homeostasis. You should be amazed at yourself. Okay? Amazed at yourself. Okay? If your calcium levels get too high, the parathyroid gland are these yellow dots you see right here. This is your thyroid right here. It will secrete a different hormone called calcitonin, which will lower the blood calcium levels, which will store the calcium in your bones, to keep it just right. All right? And then, okay, here is temperature control. Is it Slate again? Yeah, Slate. Yeah, go, Slate. Hey, Slate, why don't you take care of you're too hot, and Blue, you'll take care of it's too cold. So Blue will do this loop, Slate will do the top loop. Go.
Body temperature drops below normal. Your nervous system signals to what so body temperature continues to drop, then signals contract. So keeps both them cause the body temperature to rise.
All right, I'm done. Oh, no, I'm not. Am I done? Okay, and this is another example of regulating body temperature, and I think, you've got some there. I think we're good. I want to jump to positive feedback, and if I said, do you want a cookie, what would you say? Yes. All right, so now I give you even more cookies, and I gave you the example of birth, okay? Look at how big her hands are. She's not going to drop that baby. Okay, so in birth, right, I told you already, don't worry, it's not gross. I forgot I had that associated with that. Okay, it scared me. I forgot I did that. All right. Oh my God. Okay. Okay, here we go. That was my class making that noise. You can hear me too. Okay, now I talked to you about the head, cervix, okay, and then what happens, this goes to the brain then pituitary gland, more oxytocin, and it continues and continues. So positive feedback. It involves output that intensifies and increases the input. Output that intensifies and increases the input, thereby increasing the process to an even greater change in the same direction. childbirth, blood clotting, stomach digestion of protein, milk letdown, tied with sucking. These are all things that will stimulate a response. Now, when you are ill, the concern is, like, if you get a low-grade temperature, 99, 100, I would never give my kids anything for that. Why? Because why is that temperature elevated? It's trying to kill off that bacteria. The only time I'd ever give them anything, or I ever take anything, is if it gets up to, like, what? 105, 106, then you got to start being concerned, right? I'd probably start in at 103, 104. I'd start giving them the medicine, you know? Because what happens is your body goes, oh, we haven't killed it yet, ramp it up. Oh, we haven't killed it yet, ramp it up, okay? And it'll continue to do that until you know, like denature your brain. So that's bad, right? So, but if it's a low-grade temperature, it's trying to do its job. Okay? Let's see what this says. Did I give you the word that you needed? I did, right? Oh, titmouse. Yay! Is that really? Or is that gone? Be honest.
Was it?
I don't
really care.
I don't care. Oh, you don't need to know that. What is the diaphragm? Okay, we're going to end there. Well, I don't know if you can do them all. You want me to try? I already gave you that one. No, these are all ones that you're not held accountable to anymore. That's why. Okay, so we hope you learned all about homeostasis. Okay, have a good evening. All right then. Whoa.